The mirrored elevator doors reflected a woman who didn't exist, a frumpy, middle-aged cleaner in ill-fitting navy scrubs, her mousy brown hair pulled into a severe bun, thick-rimmed glasses obscuring her sharp green eyes. Emily Carter pressed the calloused pads of her fingers against the elevator button, still unaccustomed to the prosthetic wrinkles covering her normally manicured hands. Carter Industries headquarters hummed with its usual 7 a.m. energy when Maggie Wilkins reported for her first shift. The security guard barely glanced at her forged ID. The receptionist wrinkled her nose when Emily's cleaning cart passed too close. In the executive washroom, she caught her reflection between bottles of industrial cleaner, the daughter of a billionaire, invisible in plain sight. Her father's words echoed as she scrubbed toilets: "If you want to truly understand this company, become someone the executives look through, not at." The ammonia burned her nostrils, but not as much as the snide remarks from VPs who assumed the help couldn't understand English. She memorized every slight, every tossed paper towel that missed the bin, every condescending sigh when she dared make eye contact. By week's end, her hands blistered from harsh chemicals, her back ached from stooping, and her hidden phone held 17 recordings of policy violations. But the real discovery came at 11:23 p.m. on Friday, when she overheard 3 managers laughing about the dumb bitch in accounting they'd framed for their inventory discrepancies. The audio quality was crystal clear. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. By the way, what city are you watching us from? Write it in the comments, we're curious. Daniel Graves' wingtips appeared in Emily's peripheral vision as she mopped the 38th floor hallway. She recognized the scuffed left toe, he'd kicked her cart yesterday. Wilkins. My office. His nasal voice dripped with the same faux authority he used in board meetings. Inside, Graves gestured to a Starbucks cup sweating on his mahogany desk. This is cold. Emily kept her shoulders slumped, Maggie's submissive posture perfected through hours of surveillance footage study. I'll get fresh coffee, sir. Damn right you will. He leaned back, smirking at his reflection in the window. And clean the conference room. I saw fingerprints on the glass. She'd polished that table 3 times already. At the coffee station, Emily adjusted her wire. The tiny lens in her glasses captured Graves sabotaging her work, sprinkling crumbs on freshly vacuumed carpet, smearing hand sanitizer on spotless mirrors. Each act meticulously documented. The breaking point came at 2 a.m. Graves accidentally knocked over her bucket, sending sudsy water cascading across the IT department's server blueprints. As Emily mopped, she noticed the documents weren't copies, but originals, marked with Reynolds' handwriting about off-book adjustments. Her shaking hands weren't entirely acting as she blotted the papers. The camera in her ID badge captured every watermark, every incriminating digit. Graves never noticed her discreetly texting a sequence to her father's private server. Back in the janitor's closet, Emily allowed herself one deep breath. The disguise was working perfectly. Too perfectly. These people didn't see a human being when they looked at her, just a ghost who existed to clean up their messes. Tomorrow, she'd give them a reason to look closer. The fluorescent lights in the empty accounting department hummed like angry wasps as Emily sorted through the recycling bin. Her latex gloves stuck to damp paper as she carefully extracted crumpled documents, discarded drafts of quarterly reports with handwritten alterations. One figure in particular caught her eye, a $250,000 consulting fee to a shell company called Horizon Solutions. She had seen that name before. Late into her shift, while the executives enjoyed their whiskey nightcap at Delmonico's, Emily used her master keycard to access the CFO's office. Mark Reynolds kept his files meticulously organized, which made the unlabeled black ledger in his bottom drawer all the more suspicious. The pages contained a coded inventory of missing assets, each entry initialed by Graves and countersigned by HR Director Karen Whitmore. A shadow passed by the frosted glass door. Emily froze, her janitor's cart strategically positioned to block the view. The footsteps paused. Then came the unmistakable sound of a keycard reader. With seconds to spare, she slid the ledger back and dropped behind the desk just as the door opened. Through the gap between chair legs, she watched Reynolds' Italian loafers pace toward the filing cabinet. He muttered a curse as he rifled through folders, searching for something. Emily held her breath. The pen camera in her breast pocket captured every movement. When Reynolds finally left, she waited a full 10 minutes before moving. The risk was escalating, but so were the rewards. Tonight's haul included photos of doctored invoices and a voice recording of Reynolds admitting to the Graves problem on a hushed phone call. The boardroom smelled of citrus polish and nervous sweat as the executives filed in for the 8 a.m. emergency meeting. Emily lingered by the coffee station, her posture deliberately meek as she refilled cups. Graves smirked when he deliberately knocked his empty mug toward her. "Clean that up, Maggie." She caught the mug mid-air without spilling a drop. The room fell silent when Richard Carter entered, his expression unreadable. "Before we begin," he said, inserting a thumb drive into the conference system, "I believe my daughter has some findings to share." Every head turned as Emily removed her glasses and wig. Gasps erupted when the screens lit up with time-stamped footage, Graves sabotaging work, Reynolds shredding documents, Whitmore coaching witnesses to lie. The piece de resistance, a split-screen comparison of official reports versus the black ledger entries, drew audible curses. Emily spoke with surgical precision. "Over 17 days, I documented 43 policy violations, 18 instances of harassment, and $2.3 million in fraudulent transactions." She tapped her tablet, and the screens changed to show bank transfers to offshore accounts. All conveniently initiated after quarterly audits. Graves lunged toward her. "You little." Security intercepted him before he took 2 steps. As they escorted the conspirators out, Emily met each pair of shocked eyes in turn. "To those who treated Maggie Wilkins with basic human decency," she said, smoothing her now unnecessary uniform, "thank you. You'll be running this division by Friday." The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. Down in the lobby, the real cleaning staff, the people who taught Emily how to buff floors properly, cheered loudest of all. The glass towers of Carter Industries gleamed under the morning sun, their pristine windows reflecting a company reborn. Inside, the corridors buzzed with an energy that hadn't existed before, conversations between executives and maintenance staff, laughter in break rooms that used to be strictly segregated, the palpable sense that something fundamental had shifted. Emily Carter stood at her new office window, watching as the last news van pulled away from the building. The media frenzy had been relentless after her undercover expose went public. Business analysts debated whether her methods were revolutionary or reckless, while late-night comedians mocked Daniel Graves' tearful perp walk. None of that mattered now. The real work was just beginning. Down in the lobby, she spotted Carlos, one of the night shift janitors who taught her how to properly wax floors, demonstrating the new ergonomic mop system to a group of wide-eyed interns. The sight would have been unthinkable 2 months ago, when cleaning staff were expected to remain invisible. Now they moved through the building with their heads held high, their keycards granting access to spaces they'd once been barred from entering. The changes hadn't come easily. Several senior managers had resigned rather than adapt to the new transparency measures. Investor meetings had turned tense when Emily proposed redirecting executive bonuses to fund childcare subsidies for hourly workers. Legal nearly had a collective aneurysm when she insisted on publishing the full forensic audit results rather than settling quietly. Yet for every obstacle, there were small victories that made it worthwhile. Like when the cafeteria staff received their first-ever performance bonuses. Or when the terrified junior accountant who'd originally uncovered the fraud was promoted to lead the new ethics task force. Or the morning Emily found a handwritten note on her desk, "Thank you for seeing us," signed by every member of the cleaning crew. Her phone buzzed with a calendar alert, 3 p.m., quarterly review with her father. She took the stairs instead of the elevator, nodding to employees along the way. The fifth-floor women's restroom door stood propped open, her father's doing, a symbolic gesture after learning female employees used to avoid drinking water to escape Graves' lewd comments about bathroom breaks. Richard Carter looked up from his desk as she entered, his stern expression giving way to something resembling pride. "The Wall Street Journal called again," he said, sliding the newspaper across the desk. The headline read, "From Janitor to Justice, How One Woman Cleaned Up Corporate America." Emily barely glanced at it. "They missed the point," she said, pulling a crumpled photograph from her pocket, a selfie she'd taken with the night cleaning crew during her undercover days. "This is the real story." Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city stretched toward the horizon. Somewhere down there, Daniel Graves was probably scheming his comeback. Other corporations were undoubtedly still hiding their own versions of corruption. But in this building, at least, the air smelled faintly of lemon disinfectant and fresh coffee, no longer the cloying stench of cutthroat ambition and cut corners. As she walked back to her office, Emily passed the executive washroom. Out of habit, she checked the paper towel dispenser. Fully stocked. The mirrors gleamed. And carved discreetly into the doorframe, visible only if you knew where to look, were the initials, M.W., left by the cleaning staff in quiet tribute to the woman who'd never really existed, but whose legacy would outlast them all. The revolution, it turned out, hadn't been televised. It had been mopped, buffed, and polished into existence 1 square foot at a time. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, it means a lot to us.